morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Day today is the 22nd of April, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, aka Motown Noah. Taping this one on a beautiful Sunday night. We're actually right now in the middle of this Pelicans Thunder game, but we got a busy day on Monday. Got an ultrasound early in the AM, and that's the thing that I got to get out of the way up top here. Very, very important housekeeping notes, aka programming notes. Speaking on the very temporary future of this show. I mentioned to you guys on Friday that Monday's episode was going to be the last one that was sort of live, in a sense, that it's me in the moment talking about things that are happening right now before I go on to paternity leave, because Tuesday night, very, very late into Tuesday night, we will be going in for an induction, and then hopefully sometime Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, we are delivering, and we have a son. We got a nice little baby. So I'm going to be out of commish for a while. Now, unfortunately, I still only was able to bank the original 2 evergreen episodes that I had mentioned on Friday. I did not get a chance to record another one. Truth be told, I got to tell you guys something. My brother came over today, and we smoked a little bit of weed. I had never smoked weed with him before. So I'm still feeling a little spacey. It was about 8 hours ago. I'm still feeling it a little bit. So if I hurl a fastball into the sun, that's why. Anything I say in this episode, put a pin in it. Really think critically on if I mean it or not. There's your disclaimer. But I just wanted to let you guys know that this is the last time you're going to hear from me sort of in real time for a little while. And I ask very sincerely that through this sort of period, that you guys show me a little bit of grace, the same grace that you were kind enough to show me when we were in the middle of our move into this lovely place here, where the episodes were a little bit weird. They were consistent, and there was no fall off or anything quantity-wise, but quality-wise, I felt like I was kind of in my head about a lot of stuff, because it's just been a very overwhelming time in my life. So at some point over the next few weeks, there will be a point where there just isn't an episode. There will at some point hopefully be some communication via YouTube community posts. So if you're ever wondering, hey, when's the next episode going to be? When is he going to get back to his regularly scheduled programming? Make sure to check out YouTube community posts and see if I've put anything up there. The update here as far as programming is concerned, we got a comment from a lovely viewer of the show named Michael on Friday, where he suggested maybe I just do 1 episode a week of the episodes that I have banked, so that way it stretches like 1 extra week instead of just doing this Friday and then the following Monday. I've chewed on it, I've digested it, and I think that that's what we're going to do. It's an awesome suggestion. So the next time you hear from me is going to be next Wednesday. It'll be an evergreen episode, me just blind reading a bunch of emails. That's all it'll be. Next Wednesday, so no Friday episodes, about a week and a half from now. And then the following episode will be that following Wednesday after that. And then after that, we'll see. We'll see what's going on with me, if our bodies have adjusted to parenthood in such a way that, you know, I can carve out an hour of the day, talk about some NBA playoffs. Then that's what we're going to do. But in the meantime, those are the 2 episodes that you guys are going to be getting. So, as my final little send-off before I am forever changed, very literally, the chemicals in my brain are just fundamentally different. I'm thinking differently, I'm moving differently, I'm speaking differently after this baby arrives, after our beautiful son is born. Why don't I spend the next, a tight 45 to 70 minutes really just giving you guys some takes that I had this weekend after the NBA playoffs officially started. We have essentially, every single game, obviously, as of this recording, while we're taping it, like I said, there is still one final game going on, but I got a little something in the chamber for a lot of these games. And you guys know me, I'm not really going to sit here and talk to you guys on a nuanced level about some of the flare screens and highway screens that were being set in that Orlando-Cleveland game. I'm thinking like narratives all weekend. Every single game that's on, I'm like, okay, so this guy, what's his deal? Okay, so I'm watching Denver, and I'm thinking, what are the stakes that come with the Nuggets going back-to-back and winning a second championship? I'm talking to my brother about it today, and I'm like, are you prepared to live in a world where Reggie Jackson has 2 rings? Can you do that? Are you cool with that? And if you're not ready for that, then you're definitely not ready for the fact that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is about to have 3 of those motherfuckers. Are you ready for that? Pistons fans, are you ready for that? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope having not 1, not 2, but 3 NBA championships if Denver is to go back-to-back this season. Now, I don't know, really quick, sorry, I was on a really nice roll there. The lighting is going to be bad in this episode. I was just checking it out. I forgot I probably should have mentioned that up top, obviously, because it is a Sunday night, and we don't have the nice natural lighting coming in. So I'll try to correct it and post as best as I can, but if you use this show as a visual experience, then I do apologize for this one. It may look a little bit wonky. What if I were to say that I'm watching this Timberwolves-Suns game, and I had a light bulb moment? Would you believe me? Would you believe me if I said, folks, we haven't had a take on this show that really gives credence to what the show's title is, which is The Coping Hour. Now, the truth is, when I came up with the name of this show, it was because I woke up one day, decided it's time to get back on the horse. I need to start hurling takes into a microphone again. Oh, shit, I forgot I have to name the show. The Coping Hour. And it just kind of accidentally became like well, that's actually what I do for most of these anyways. But the truth is I haven't had a take so fundamentally awful that it could only possibly be derived from my insecurity as a fan of the team that I want to get a take off about. So that's what we're about to do. Phoenix, been saying it about them all season. Don't feel that differently after game one, by the way. That, like, you have a team that is so focused on getting their three top guys as many touches as they can in a 48-minute stretch. Like 90% of these touches, right? The ball has to touch their hands, at least two of them on every single possession. To a point where, you know, if that's 90% of the touches, I'm giving 3% to Grayson Allen. Most of that shit's going to be off the catch anyways, right? Knocked down a ton of threes this year, you know, at a super efficient clip, and he was rewarded with the contract extension. Okay, fine. So take him off the Pistons list, which, by the way, yes, that's where this is going. So take Grayson Allen off the list. That's fine. And if it's not going to him, who is it going to? Sneaky Yusuf Nurkic. Sneaky, a little bit. And then if it's not going to him, it's well documented on this show that I am convinced that Royce O'Neal is afraid to shoot that motherfucker. Ever since he got to Phoenix, I tricked myself, man. I told myself that this was going to be sneaky. Does Royce O'Neal, is he one of those dudes that, like, is able to swing a playoff series? From like if you had to do an award and the candidates were guys who sneaky might swing a playoff series that you otherwise wouldn't expect, who are some other candidates, just so you kind of know where I'm going with this? I would say like Peyton Watson this year could easily be in there. You know, if the Lakers were to have any shot, I would say sneaky, I would throw Rui in there. You get what I'm thinking? So I would have absolutely have put Royce O'Neal in here. Now, my whole that guy doesn't want to shoot the ball thing was kind of mushed into the ground. This is a very long-winded way of, we'll get to the diluted take, don't worry. But all of this is important. Royce O'Neal put up 8 motherfucking threes in game 1. Shit! Fuck! Well, now I'm wrong about that. Except not really. Record scratch, freeze frame. You're probably wondering how Royce O'Neal got here. I'm still not convinced that he's that good. He hit that one shot at the end of the first quarter at the buzzer, and that shit was cold. I was like, all right, okay. I got up a little bit. I said, all right, Royce O'Neal, I'm pumping my chest. We're halfway to the silencer. Do it again. Go do it again, Royce O'Neal. Didn't really happen. So I'm saying all of this just to say, does Phoenix, if the series ends up going this way, right, and they go out big sad, the Phoenix Suns, newly owned by Matt Ishbia, go out big time sad after their big Bradley Beal swing, following their big Kevin Durant swing. Things go off the rails. They lose in 4. They lose in 5. But they're out in round 1. Does Phoenix go into the offseason and they say, we got to get some of these other guys on the margins involved a little bit more, and they need to actually be able to stay ready? Because right now I'm not totally convinced that they can, and I don't know if it's going to magically change in these next few games against a team in Minnesota who is equipped defensively to deal with pretty much anybody in the league, including Denver, by the way, even Boston. By the way, if I'm Phoenix, do I say, all right, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, 2 of you can stay. 2 of you can stay. Okay, it's not going to be Kevin Durant that leaves. Kevin Durant is automatically staying. He's Kevin Durant, by the way. You just traded for him. Okay, well, it's not going to be Bradley Beal because of how much they just gave up to get him. They're not just going to immediately flip it. Do you just look at Devin Booker and hold on and stay with me? Do you just look at Devin Booker and say, you know what, man, you've done nothing wrong, but we need to try something new, and in order to get back a lot of the assets that we lost in order to get these two other motherfuckers, you're going to have to be the guy, the fall guy here, right? It's got to be on somebody, and we could get the most cool shit for you. So then you scan the league. You look around the league. Okay, so who's a team that could be like right on the fringe of doing something, whether that's making the playoffs or contending for a championship? They need a little bit of veteran shooting. They need that leadership at the 2 spot, right? Or the 1 spot, wherever Devin Booker is playing these days, point guard or shooting guard, right? Truth is he can do both, so it doesn't really matter. I'm thinking Orlando. Orlando could be kind of fun for that, actually, because sneaky, you think, are they going to go after like Donovan Mitchell, or are they going to be the team that swoops in on Klay Thompson? Like, what's going to happen there? Or you think to yourself, what about Detroit? Because I'm looking at a Pistons team that the only way they're going to get out of this, there's 2 ways. 1, veteran shooting. That's why you looked at the Grayson Allen thing. He gets a contract extension. You're like, shit, fuck. That was like one of our contingency plans. You're going to tell me it's Tobias Harris. Next, move on. It might be. It probably is, by the way. I genuinely believe that's going to happen. But we've talked about it too many times. The other way to do this is not through virtue of free agency. It's through virtue of the trade market. And that applies to any team these days, right? If you're an NBA team and you're like, how do we get better as fast as possible? These free agency classes just haven't been good in recent years, and they're probably not going to be very good in the future because these dudes aren't letting themselves get to free agency. They keep signing these mass extensions, and then when they decide it's time to get traded, they just ask out. Some of these guys say, I want to go to this team, this team, this team. Some guys just say, why don't I go somewhere else? And it's best for all parties involved. These guys do not get to free agency. So if you're Detroit, and this goes a layer deeper, by the way, and you're a team that's like, hey, we're going to keep Troy Weaver around, but we're also going to hire a president of basketball operations to kind of oversee everything, just so as if there wasn't enough cooks in the kitchen, by the way, in Detroit. But we want one more guy in the room to help Troy get through this thing, maybe to have a more definitive say in some of the shit that goes on. Well, it sounds like one of the people that Detroit wants to hire is John Horst, general manager of the Milwaukee. Is that still what he's doing? Is GMing the Bucks? Let me tell you something about John Horst. There are 2 major trades that he facilitated. One was for Damian Lillard. One was for Drew Holiday. These 2 trades had something similar in common, but they were just a little bit different. They were similar, but they were a little bit different. The Damian Lillard trade, everybody knew that he wanted out. Everybody knew at some point the Dame trade was going to happen, but everybody assumed that it was going to be Miami, that Damian Lillard was going to end up in Miami in some horseshit way. At the 11th hour, John Horst swoops in a team that you never would have thought was involved. You didn't hear a damn whisper about it until it actually happened. Damian Lillard is a Milwaukee Buck thanks to John Horst. If we rewind the clock a little bit, do you motherfuckers remember when the Bucks traded for Drew Holiday? It felt like the world was ending, and I mean that in the most endearing way possible. There is nothing that excites me more than player movement involving a player, or rather, I should say, a trade involving a player that you didn't hear a damn word about it beforehand, that you would have never otherwise thought that that guy was available. Not to say that Drew Holiday wasn't untouchable at the time, but it is to say that not a single motherfucker was talking about that happening, and then it did. You know who else made a trade like that? Detroit, when they traded for Blake Griffin. There wasn't a whisper out there that Blake Griffin was on the block, mainly because he just had signed that previous, we just talked about in the previous episode, that huge extension with Los Angeles like 5 months prior. Like it wasn't that far behind. So I say all of this just to say Detroit brings that guy in to be their president, a Michigan man, and they look at this Phoenix thing that's gotten kind of weird. You're thinking, is Matt Ishbia Joseph Tsai 2.0? That prophecy that I've been putting out there for 2.5 damn years whenever Matt Ishbia bought the team, you're telling me that shit's about to come true? Devin Booker, another Michigan man, a hometown guy, coming back to Detroit because Minnesota bitched Phoenix in the playoffs. That was my diluted take of the weekend, is holy motherfucking shit. It's actually happening. Then you're looking around the league and you're thinking to yourself, if I'm Detroit and I'm thinking, who's a guy that nobody's talking about? And the gears start to spin. They're going. I'm watching Knicks versus Sixers. I look at a guy like Tyrese Maxey. No one's talking about it. Can I just say, can I backtrack and even, can I add a little bit more nuance to the Phoenix thing and why it would make sense for them? Because if you're Phoenix and the objective here is we got to break up with one of these guys and it's just got to be two of them. Championship teams are no longer predicated on these three major stars. It just does not work like that anymore. You have an elite one, an elite two, and then at least an elite superstar one, and then like a B+ to A- number two, and then it's shit on the margins. Well, the trade package is going to have to be centered on, if you're Phoenix, you want to get back some capital. You want to get back a little bit of shit. And if you're Detroit, that's kind of where the buck is going to stop a little bit, because you still can't trade a future first because of a pick that you owe the Knicks, right? And that has yet to convey the protections on that. So because of that, you're handicapped. There's not shit that you can do with the future first, unless it's trading the draft rights to somebody on draft night. So ask, does Phoenix want Buzelis? Is that who they want? Okay. Because we can do that, and then we can add, you want Jaden Ivey? You want a recently extended Isaiah Stewart, who you don't even have to pay, by the way. We did that for you. He's locked up for a few years. You want to put him and Drew Eubanks on the same team? That little bitch? Fuck Drew Eubanks. You want to do that? But if that's what you want to do, then you can. Oh, you want a SAR? If it's Devin Booker, right? If that's what it costs, then go do that shit. And then what happens to Phoenix overnight? They have their two guys. They have the rights to Buzelis or whoever it is that they want, and then they have shit on the margins. They have a Jaden Ivey. They have an Isaiah Stewart. We have shit to sell. They have something that we want, and we want to put something next to Cade Cunningham. That guy can easily be Devin Booker. The thing I was going to say about Tyrese Maxey in Philadelphia, he's not really a guy that people are talking about on the trade block, for good reason. A trade with them doesn't make any damn sense. It makes zero sense at all. You get real weird to do do you do like a Lou Dort thing? Nightmare scenario. Miles Bridges in free agency, and then Josh Giddey via some, whoa, what does that cost? You know what I mean? Because he's halfway out of the rotation in Oklahoma City anyways. How's he been in this game? I tell you what, this is a tight one here. We're about halfway through the third quarter. We got a tie ball game. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? I'm watching this Philadelphia 76ers New York game, and I'm thinking a few things to myself. First of all, that Joel Embiid self-alley-oop to himself that he seemingly gets hurt. I say seemingly. He did get hurt on, and it looked like he got hurt in a bad way. And I immediately was like, I went from, oh, my God, to, oh, my God, pretty much instantly, right? Was that the collective reaction that we all had? Shout out to the internet. It would have been very easy for them to turn the photo of Joel Embiid looking straight up in disbelief while on the ground. Good for the internet for not turning that into a meme, unless they have, and I just completely missed it, or maybe this will age poorly and it just took a minute for it to kind of get off the ground. Haven't seen a ton from it, though. Good for them, showing a lot of class on the internet. Love to see that. From an otherwise just what the fuck play, it really sucked to have him go down, which has almost kind of been the sentiment of the playoffs. Not to derail myself a little bit, but especially this Sunday slate that we got to see. You're thinking, okay, so no Jimmy Butler. Oh, okay. No Kawhi Leonard. Oh, okay. No Zion Williamson. Oh, well, okay. No Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh, well, okay. That all sucks. That doesn't feel great. But I got to tell you about this Knicks game. If I'm the Knicks and I'm trying to go 16-0 in these playoffs, I'm trying to go 8-0 on my way to a matchup against Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, if nothing else, right? You're not going to get, 26 points on 22 shots or something ridiculous like that from Jalen Brunson. That's not always going to happen. Matter of fact, it's not going to happen that often. And the Knicks were, Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets, I thought had a good point. Kind of like their get-out-of-jail-free card game, because you also can't rely on Josh Hart to be fucking Lee Harvey Oswald in the last 8 minutes of that game, putting up the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen. You're like, who the fuck is this guy taking this shot? And then rips the net. Oh, okay. That's cool. Is Josh Hart the most quintessential Thibs guy? I mean, just out-rebounds everybody outside of his position. Rebounds incredibly well for his position, especially with his size, being a little undersized. You're like, oh, okay. I just don't call him a shooter. He's a scorer, though. Just does all the right stuff. And then most importantly for Thibs, and this is what makes him quintessential in some way, That dude will log 45 minutes. No problem. He'll just do it. You're, 23 minutes into this second half, Josh Hart is still ripping threes. He's still, like, diving on the floor for loose balls. You're like, huh? You're like, what? He just hasn't checked out of this game? No. My brain, Josh Hart has not checked out of the game in the second half. Wow. Okay. Impressed. You want some real nuance from that Cavs Magic game? How about Beth Mowins, God love her, suffering from some technical difficulties early in that game? As the game tips off, we spend about 2 minutes of game time, about 5 minutes of real time, in complete silence from the booth. All you're hearing is like the game and the atmosphere. You're hearing the ball hit the floor. You're hearing the fans cheer. It was weird. It was like a live feed. There was zero commentary. Did it all kind of make us realize, ooh, I would love an alternate broadcast where it's just this. It's just the ambiance of the game. It's just the environment. Because it felt massive. It made the game feel a lot bigger. Not that Beth Mowins really needs help doing that. I think she does a phenomenal job calling these games. And I'm also somebody, I know people watch these games on mute because you're like, do you really need commentary for them? I do. Broadcasting is too important it's just too important to my life. It's just like half of my deal when I watch these games is being really analytical about how these broadcasts are going. A major note from this weekend in terms of broadcasters, and I do have a few of them, but let's lead with the most major one. Let's lead with the most like, huh? You're like, what the fuck was that? No one's talking about it. Knicks, Sixers. Anybody here when JJ Redick was like, Jalen Brunson is 5'10 or 5'11 on a good day? The fuck? What did he just say? Record scratch freeze frame? What the fuck was that? Nobody's mentioned this. Nobody's mentioned this. Google how tall Jalen Brunson is. Go to his profile on NBA.com. Basketball Reference. Synonyms. Go check it out. He's going to be listed as 6'1". Huh? Oh, Nick, you didn't know NBA players lie about their height? Of course I did. But he's 5'10". Jalen Brunson and I are like the same height. Here's my thing. Here's my thing. I am real life 5'11", and like maybe change, but I am 5'11". This is boy math, by the way. I say I'm 5'10", because if I look you in the eyes and I tell you I'm 5'11", fellas, what does that mean? You're 5'10". Because if you were really 5'11", what would you say? You'd say 6 foot, but I'm not 6 foot. So I say 5'10" because I'm obviously telling the truth. If I'm 5'10", I mean, sure, you can be like, well, you could actually be 5'8". Yeah, but I'm not, though. Obviously, if you just look at me, I'm not. I'm real life 5'11". I tell everybody I'm 5'10" because I can't lie. I'm not going to get away with saying I'm 6 foot. Also, because I don't care about it that much. I'm just not interested in the mental gymnastics that people are going to go through to ask me, oh, okay, so you're not actually 6 foot. It bothers me. So I'm saying Jalen Brunson not actually 6'1". He's actually 5'10". He's actually 5'11". I complain a lot on this show about the oversaturation, seemingly, of JJ Redick and how he's everywhere. And, you guys always love to joke, oh, Nick, you're just a fucking hater. How could you hate JJ Redick? I do not hate JJ Redick. I think JJ Redick is a genius, but I'm not interested in hearing about a hammer play that was run in the second quarter of a fucking Nets-Rockets game. I don't give a shit about that. The nuances of that aren't interesting to me. I'm here to talk about narratives. I got to tell you, though, folks, JJ Redick is sneaky built for this broadcasting shit. He's so good at it because he's started to pick up the mechanics of Mike Breen just gave me the floor for 15 to 20 seconds to talk about something. But in the middle of me talking about this thing, Royce O'Neal drives to the basket and lays it in. And JJ Redick will stop himself in the middle of the point and say something to the effect of, as Royce O'Neal lays it in, that's important. That's important to do that. Again, mechanically to the job. He's also so good at sending the broadcast off to commercial. In the past, what did we get from Mark Jackson? You would get, sometimes a hero is more than a sandwich. And then they would fucking cut to commercial. We get a State Farm commercial. Jesus, that's the taste you're left with in your mouth. And there's something funny about that. And there's something very, I don't know if endearing is the right word, but it was Mark Jackson. You know what I mean? That's just how Mark Jackson was. He was very uniquely him. And I would argue unapologetic too. I think, from a like textbook perspective, JJ is doing a fucking awesome job calling these games. Another guy that I want to highlight who was broadcasting this weekend was Bob Myers. This was and I knew he had been calling games this year. I knew he was on like the NBA countdown desk, whatever it is at ESPN, pregame and postgame, halftime. Bob Myers will sometimes be in the chair, and he'll be talking about some stuff. I knew I'd called some games, but I hadn't heard him yet this year. Bob Myers, former general manager of the Golden State Warriors during the golden years. To be honest, if you're unfamiliar with who he is, well, he retired like a year ago. He left the team. And now he calls basketball games. Former agent as well. He's got relationships. He's got charisma. Damn, he's good in the chair. Man, he's just fun. And ESPN really helped him out because they gave him Dave Pasch. Dave Pasch is a professional's professional. I would argue he's your favorite broadcaster's favorite broadcaster. He's that good. Does football in college and I'm sure he does college basketball too, but I'm not sure because I don't watch. And then he also does the NBA. So this guy transcends a single sport, and he's just really good at all of it. Mark Jones, how about him? I'm a little tired of it with Mark Jones, just his isms. I do like him at football. No notes in football. He's awesome. Basketball, sometimes I get a little bit. It sucks because such a fantastic replacement for Grant Napier. God rest his soul. He's still very much alive, but look up what happened to Grant Napier in 2020. Jesus, fell into a level 1 trap. And Mark Jones comes in to be the Kings replacement. I mean, that's just awesome. Like, Mark Jones doing a local broadcast is sick. Good for Kings fans. I mean, nobody beats it with the Knicks. I mean, you literally have Mike Breen. Hey, can I tell you guys something? Can I tell you guys something about Milwaukee? I think we're all dumb. All of us. Didn't see a single person mention this. And it's so bad, and I've seen so few people mention this, that if and when you tell me that you did, you're a fucking liar. At the risk of sounding like I'm calling you a fucking liar, you are. So Milwaukee doesn't have Giannis, and we're all like, oh my God. Vegas shits the bed. They're like, oh my God, switch the odds. We're getting a ton of action on Indiana. Giannis, his status is kind of up in the air for this series, at least early on. It looks like for the first 2 games at least, like just no fucking way. But, at least for right now, as of this recording, no Giannis in game 1. Oh, my God. So bad that pre-game, the odds for the series flipped to Indiana across the board. All the sports books, they're like, this is Indiana's series. Only Damian Lillard coming off like probably the biggest regression of a season that he's had and maybe ever. I mean, maybe ever. The vibes are weird. There's like weird reports coming out about Dame in Milwaukee and like his level of happiness there, which Dame has refuted publicly in the media. And did we all just forget something? Did we all forget that Dame did this motherfucking shit for the last 8 years? Where how many playoff games did he win? How many playoff series did he win with like his second best player being Yusuf Nurkic? Or CJ McCollum, with all due respect to CJ McCollum, of course, and Yusuf Nurkic for that matter. But you know what I mean. And then in the later years, how did Dame do without CJ McCollum? Well, wait, that's not the point that I want it to be. But you know what I mean. So Dame has done this in the playoffs. He doesn't need Giannis in these moments. This motherfucker's been around. He's a vet. This is what he's done. So can we really be that surprised when in the first half against Indiana, he puts up 35 on some of the most ridiculous vintage Dame shit? Say vintage like he's been washed for years. Shit that you would have seen Dame do like a year ago, right? But that we've been waiting, begging for, on our hands and knees, crying, shitting, throwing up, sliding down the wall, being like, Dame, we miss you, come home. And then he did against the Pacers. And you're just kind of left to be like, you're like, what? You're like, huh? So they're going to be fine then. So they're going to be fine. I don't know. But it certainly looked like it after one game. Giannis who? I'm Giannis Antetokounmpo? Tomato. I was trying to do some like NBA hyperboles for the playoffs. If I had like my most copium take up top about, who the Pistons could go get. Sneaky just on the CJ McCollum thing. I love to talk about, players that a team could go get that nobody's really talking about. Nobody's really talking about CJ McCollum. Maybe they are in like smaller circles. Teams are always going to want CJ McCollum. The Pels want CJ McCollum. They don't want him going anywhere, right? Is that a guy that Detroit can maybe go after, do something? I think the Pelicans have enough. I don't think they're going to be that interested in anything that Detroit has. Doesn't really feel like the juice is going to be worth the squeeze there if you're New Orleans. But I digress. And I'm looking around the league and I'm like, okay, is there a series that I'm ready to call where I'm not trying to give too many predictions here in this episode because I won't be able to, come back on Friday and sort of correct and immediately reflect on like, oh, hey, remember on Monday when I said I won't be able to do that for a few weeks. So I kind of want to cover my tracks in a certain way. But if there is a series that I can feel confident being like, this is just over, right? This is just over. It's got to be the Lakers series, right? Maybe I should say the Nuggets. And if I really wanted to, is that fair? Like, what did you really think was going to happen? Does the question evolve or devolve, depending on how you're looking at it, depending on who you're a fan of, as it pertains to the Lakers Nuggets? Does it devolve into like, so is it over for LeBron in the sense that he's never going to get past the first round? He's never going to get back out of the first round in the West if he's supposed to be the guy. It sounds like I didn't watch the game if I try to sit here and tell you that game was fucking LeBron's fault. It was not. It would be the same thing if I sat here and tried to tell you that it was Anthony Davis's fault. It was absolutely not. He was awesome. If I had one criticism of Anthony Davis, when's the last time that you like really felt him take over a game? Did I just miss it? Was I just not paying attention whenever the last time it happened was, and it was actually like 3.5 weeks ago, and I just wasn't watching that game? Maybe it was. But as far as I'm concerned, when I tune in, I haven't seen Anthony Davis do real-life Anthony Davis shit for 35 minutes in a while. Maybe as an important note for those, how do I want to phrase this? A note for posterity for those who command it. D'Angelo Russell did come to work for this game. Someone said that on a broadcast. This guy, he just comes to work every day. The fuck? No shit. Does he really? Oh my God, impressed. I come to work every fucking Monday and Friday. I sit in front of this thing. Nobody's giving me a damn award for it. Nobody's gassing me up on a broadcast. What am I talking about? I'm sitting here watching this game, and I gotta tell you, man, I'm bummed. I'm bummed because I just am convinced that it's over. To go back to the point that I was making before, if LeBron James is going to stay in Los Angeles, I just don't. Because when he has to, in this fourth quarter, defer, he's like, I can't, I have to get somebody else involved. They know what I'm doing. They know what Anthony Davis is doing. I have to get Austin Reeves involved. I have to. Oh, I'm sorry. I was supposed to say the thing I was going to say about. I was going to say get D'Angelo Russell involved. I was supposed to finish that thought, and then I got upset. I apologize. This is where I'm starting to get wishy-washy. I need to steer this thing. We're doing some off-road podcasting right now. I have to get this thing back onto the fucking road. I have spoken about this at least 2 or 3 times in the last month. D'Angelo Russell will score a shit ton of points in a row, and you won't even know that it happened. It's not, you don't even take your eyes off of the fucking screen, and they'll just be like, D'Angelo Russell has 13 points. D'Angelo Russell did not have a three-pointer made until, like, how late in that game? And I was actually watching it when it happened. And I couldn't believe it. I watched a lot of misses early in that game, and if you're the Lakers and you're just like, oh, so we're back to this. So we're back to D'Angelo Russell in April, where he is like a fucking saboteur. And LeBron doesn't take a shot in that fourth quarter until there's 35 seconds left in the game. And you're like, what? You're like, huh? Was it that game? No, it was the Sixers-Lakers, where the Sixers just didn't foul. And sure, most of us are like technically happy about that, because when you're down 5 with like 20 seconds left, you're like, all right, fucking wrap this up. Like, wrap it up. The Sixers, I guess, just did. They gave like some really half-ass attempts at fouling, and then they just were punted. They'll punt, good, move on, do something else, go to the next thing. I don't know if there's not too much else that I have from this weekend. I just enjoyed being back in the mix with playoff basketball. With all due respect to the Magic and the Cavs, I did take a very crisp second quarter nap during that game. Another series that I would like to declare over potentially is Celtics Heat, but that one feels like another low-hanging fruit. The silver lining I have for all of these teams, you talk about, I get to think the real take would be, if I had to pick one that's a little spicier, I do think that the Suns are about to get fucked up in a bad way. But this is what I was going to say, is if you're Phoenix, if you're the Lakers, if you're the Heat, I'm not ready to say this about the Sixers because I think the Sixers, I think this is still a series. I really do. But also it might not be. If you're any of the other aforementioned teams, though, you're going to get a game. You're going to steal a game. And depending on when in the series it happens, God forbid it's like game 2, there's going to be this reset and people are going to start to pretend to have a conversation about, ooh, don't look out for these Lakers. Don't count them out. Don't count out LeBron. And then they're just going to drop the next 3 games and maybe some of them will be close. You'll just be like, all right, yeah. Phoenix is going to have 1 game, right? It'll probably be at home, but Phoenix is going to have 1 game where everybody just goes berserk and Kevin Durant puts up like 41, 11 and 9. You're like, what the fuck? Devin Booker puts up like 46 on like 17 shots. You're like, huh? Like, what? That's going to happen. Even if Jimmy Butler doesn't come back from Miami, like they have the juice though. They have the juice. They showed it in the play-in against Chicago. It's another one that as soon as you get it at home. Although shout out to Heat fans for just like not showing up. It's like 7:30 on a Friday. It's tip off. It's like an elimination game. Is their season over? Or do they get in the playoffs? Motherfuckers in Miami are just like, man, that's all right. It's fine. Shout out to Clipper fans for wearing the jerseys or the shirts that were actually laid out in this game. Oh wow, is that you're 36 minutes into this one and you're thinking to yourself, is he just not going to mention that Dallas just got fucking curb stomped by the Clippers? Is he not going to mention that? I guess repressed that one this quick because I was yapping about everything else. And I was like, I'm kind of on a roll in this episode. Feels like I'm forgetting something, though. Oh, yeah, it's the fact that the team that sneaking I'm pulling for more than any other team, the other closest team would be the Knicks. I feel like maybe I should have finished my point about the Heat and the Celtics. I'm sure, honestly, with how this one's going, I'm sure we're going to wrap around and we'll get back to that one. I don't have that much to say about the Mavs game. I was bummed. Brother, my vibes were not good. They were not good at all. And does it make you question it a little bit? I think so. But I don't want to switch up because I'm the same one who's been like, if I'm Dallas, like, I have the best player in the series, no matter what. Most teams that I'm playing, sans like 1 or maybe 2, like, I have the best player. There's a chance I have the second best player. And even if I don't, and he's like 3rd, well, I have the best 2. And I have the best duo, right? So watching the Clippers do this little fucking avalanche on my heart, and I'm like, I have the Knicks, I guess. I was high. I'm going to be honest, guys. I was really just kind of watching it, just like upset. I don't have that much to say to it. But I will say, when you think about a team like the Clippers and you think about a team like the Mavericks and you think narratively, what does a championship mean for these two teams? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Clippers. If Russell Westbrook wins a championship this season, are you happy immediately? Are you happy like that? Are you like, good for this fucking guy, finally gets over the hump, reaches that apex mountain of his career where he's arguably playing the most valuable role that he's played since his MVP season on a team that doesn't need the world from him, but it's the situation that he's been waiting for who knows how long, right? A franchise that desperately needs the spark that he brings. I'm feeling good about it. What if James Harden wins a ring this year? Are you ready for that? Are you ready for... Because here's my thing, is there's something endearing about it to me. I think to look at this guy and be like, you have bitched and complained at every turn. And you've gotten your way every single time. Every single time things work out. In the end, things work out in your favor the way that you wanted them to. A championship validates all of that. I don't give a fuck. It does. Even if he's not the James Harden of 2018 and he's not the number 1 guy, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. Because in a lot of ways, he does the same shit. In a lot of ways, he's changed his game for the betterment of the Clippers, right? To better support what they need on most nights. Even if there have been plenty of instances where he just like can't heat up. He just like can't hit shots. And then he like bitches about like, I just need someone to help me. The fuck? You're James Harden. You have 50 touches a game. If you shoot the ball 4 times a quarter, like that's 16 shots. That's still a lot. Shoot it 5 times a quarter. That's 20 shots a game, motherfucker. It's up to you. You're James Harden. Like, figure it out. What if he wins a championship? Is there not something a little bit endearing about the guy who bitches about everything and then getting his way every single time, it working in the end, and he wins a championship? Sometimes that guy wins, by the way. If you don't think that's cute, you don't think that's funny, sometimes that guy wins. And we would just be living through it in our own instance where it would work for James Harden. What does it mean for Dallas? Oh, Luka would have, whatever. Goat talk, whatever. We'll fucking do that when it happens. Are you ready to stomach the idea that Jason Kidd might be an NBA championship winning coach? Are you there? It's the same picture.jpg as everything we just talked about. All this shitheadery and foolishness that we've dealt with from Jason Kidd over the last how many years? And he wins a championship? In this West? With this team? He would have to go through who? The Clippers, the Thunder, and then the winner of the Nuggets Timberwolves. They got to go through that. And then in the East, what are we thinking? Boston or New York is probably who comes out on top, right? Boston or New York, whoever it ends up being. That's hard. And then if it's not one of those two, guess what? It's a team that beat one of those two. And that's not nothing. And that's not nothing. So if Jason Kidd wins a championship, it validates all of it. It just does. What if the Suns do it? They're not. Shut up. Shut up. They're not, Nick. Don't even do it. Don't even fucking do it. Don't you dare. You know, Stephen A. brought up some shit today that I was appalled by. You talk about narratives. You talk about this is why the talking heads do it, is for the love of the game, of narratives. Stephen A. Smith sits up there on that panel of 5 motherfuckers. Think they could have squeezed one more up there? I think Bill Simmons was on to something about that. It's got to be a conversation that's had about how many people is too many people on a pregame panel. 4? Probably 4. I think 3 is a really good number. But 4 is like, okay, that's like college game day. Okay, fine. 4 is okay. 4 is okay. But after that, it's too many. I would pick 3, but we could do 4. 5 of these bitches up there. Oh, okay. Stephen A. Smith is asking Woj, hey, is Kawhi going to play tonight? Woj is like, meh, probably not. It doesn't look like it. I don't think he's going to play. Stephen A. Smith is like, Woj, and he's heated, by the way. I'm being a little hyperbolic in reverse by just saying it in sort of this tone. You guys know Stephen A. Smith. You guys know how mad he was. Well, just all the time, not was. He goes, Woj, I got some numbers for you, and you're going to like these. The fuck? What, does Woj not like Kawhi or something? And he goes on to talk about, oh, you know, he's missed, you know, X amount, 40% of the regular season games since he got to the Clippers like 4 years ago. He's missed 30% of their playoff games. And then he goes, you're telling me Kawhi Leonard was in good enough shape to collect his Olympic jersey the other day, but he can't suit up for... Guy was dead-ass fucking serious. What are you talking about, Stephen A.? What's this agenda? He's talking about cut bait with Kawhi Leonard. Like, cut this shit out. He just played more games this season than he has in like a decade. You're like, huh? You're like, what? Like, Kawhi Leonard actually plays games this year. It's like the same motherfuckers who are like, so Zion just sucks, like Zion's a bust. You're like, huh? Played 70 games this year. It's like the best that he's ever played. You know, he lost 25 pounds since Christmas. Do you wonder if maybe that's not that healthy? Girlfriend and I were talking about earlier. She's like, that's a lot of weight to lose in like 4 months. Like, it's a lot. I mean, hey, I'm sure he's on the best diet, the best regimen. The irony is a little bit palpable there. And then my brain started to, I'm going crazy, you know. I'm thinking to myself, who's going to be the first NBA player to, like, do the Ozempic thing? And I was like, I don't think any of them will. I don't think any of them can. I also don't think any of them are ever going to be out of shape enough that they're like, fuck, we got it. I got to start hitting Ozempic. Because I was reading this whole article, I think it was from, like, Business Insider or something, and you can... Not you can take Ozempic, but if you take Ozempic for reasons that you're not supposed to, and you don't work out at all, and then you like form this like not dependency on it, but you just keep hammering it to lose weight because like it works. You don't work out, you'll like form some sort of dystrophy, and your muscles are fucked, and like your bones are fucked. But then you're like, well, that wouldn't happen to an NBA player because of the training regimen that they're on. So, like, Zion would be fine. I'm not suggesting here that Zion is taking Ozempic. I'm just asking, what if that happened? What if there was a player who did it? Probably like, okay, oh, what if there was? So what if there was? It'd be funny. Be it. That'd be funny. You know, can I give you guys a little teaser about something? My girlfriend and I spent like 20 minutes doing a bit earlier. It's probably one of my favorite ones we've ever done. And about 2 hours removed from it, I go, I was like, that's a segment, first of all. But then I was like, I don't know if it is. Because I don't know how it's going to go. But it was basically like we were going over who would be the funniest player to come out as gay in the NBA. And like what it would do to basketball discourse and how it would melt people's brains. And some of the answers that we ended up coming up with, my response, and I think what I ended up settling on was, the day that I do a set somewhere and I invite you guys there, it's going to be one of those, like, I'm going to Chappelle that shit. Not where I talk about, like, trans people and for no reason at all. Like, unprovoked. And I'm just like, they're weird, huh? And you're like, what? No. And he's like, yeah, you all agree with me. But what I mean is the thing where I lock up all your motherfuckers' phones and so I can just fire off some takes and I can really try out some material. And I think that's what that bit's going to be. So that's going in the special that no one's allowed to record. Nobody's allowed to tape. And you guys will be my guinea pigs. We did get a comment the other day also that was like, it was the most coping hour listener comment I've ever seen in my life. And they were like, hey, like taking my estrogen shot while I'm listening to your Blake Griffin eulogy. Fuck yeah. That's awesome. That sounds awesome. My girlfriend and I were talking about it this morning, and she's like, I don't remember how. Oh, because I read her that comment. She's like, do you have that many trans people that listen to the show? I was like, you'd be fucking surprised. I was like, you'd be really surprised. You're like, yeah, sneaky a lot. And I think some of you guys are Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Bucket's transplants. I think that's where some of you guys came from. But it's so fascinating to me how many of you guys that there are. And the emails that you guys send are generally the most fascinating. And in a lot of ways have some of the best perspectives and the most nuance because of the shit that you guys have been through, sort of spiritually, emotionally, physically, in a lot of cases, right? I was like, I don't know. If there's like roughly on both platforms like 6,000 people that listen to every episode, I was like, it's probably about 100. That's a lot. I was like, wow, that's a lot. Shout out to that person. I don't have it pulled up right here. Anything else I got on the Pistons? I think that's kind of what I kind of want to end on that. Matter of fact, here's what I should do. I should finally give my Detroit Lions, hey, they got new uniforms. Nick, you spent all weekend thinking about it. We didn't get an immediate reaction on Friday. What gives? I thought that was like your whole deal was waiting for these Lions uniforms. It was. Now, I got to tell you guys something. Not to be the guy who's like, hey, I saw this before you guys did. I kind of did and I kind of didn't. I got to see the jerseys like a week early, but I didn't know for sure that they were real. Turns out they ended up being real. And the messaging on these new Detroit Lions uniforms for a while had been sort of a retro modern refresh where they want to sort of recreate and get back in touch with their roots of the 90s, but put a modern twist on it. It's very common. It's very common in 2024. It's that or like modern minimalism. Think like the Cardinals uniforms. It's a disease. It's awful. It's better than like the late 2010s to early 2020s. There was a very brief gradient period where motherfuckers were obsessed with putting gradients on jerseys, which is foul, which is sinister. That's like criminal behavior. So the Lions come out with these uniforms. Best thing about them are the jerseys themselves. They're amazing. Oh my God, they're disgusting. I love them. Especially when you hold, I love the white numbers. I love the white numbers. People were bitching about bringing the black back until it happened, and then they're like, oh, I love them. Really? Yeah, go figure. You guys are the reason they brought them back anyways. You wouldn't stop bitching about them. And then they finally bring them back. People are like, oh, no. And then they show them. And they're like, oh, I love them. Oh, yeah, shocking. Here's my beef. The helmets suck. The helmets are bad. Hate the blue on the face masks. Now, here's also the blue helmets. I don't like them at all. The blue helmets that we had this previous year were like godsends. Like, oh my God, never take these helmets off. These are the blue ones. The ones that we're supposed to wear with the black jerseys, they suck. But again, the jerseys and the pants themselves are awesome. Here's what's going to happen. Once I see them all in action, both helmets in action, it'll be like week 8. I'll be over it. I'll be over it by then. But as it stands in the moment, there's also something to be said about the my brother mentioned this earlier. It's like the contrast of the photos that they used. I don't know. We didn't know if it's like an exposure thing. They corrected it in post. There's like a weird vibrance to it. I guess that's the nice thing about Honolulu blue being your primary color is like there is not a specific Pantone for the color. And it's really just like a vibrant blue. That's it. That's like all that it has to be. And so that the Lions are sort of allowed to do whatever they want with it. Fuck with it. Tweak it. 10 minutes left in this fourth quarter. Thunder up by about 9. By the time you guys are listening to this, you're thinking to yourself, wow, yeah, that Pelicans comeback was crazy. Jonas Valanciunas, that 35 points in a minute and a half that he had was fucking wild. That was crazy. Anything else I got to tell you guys before we get out of here? I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen to this show. It's not going anywhere. The show's not going to die. I'm just saying, like, content-wise, I'm just so curious to see what happens to my brain. And if I get dumber somehow, or if the content gets worse. You guys are really nice, by the way. Some of the stuff that you guys email me and some of the stuff that you guys comment. And a lot of the time, I think that this show is it's not a lot of good episodes. And then you guys will be like, I literally will kill myself if there's ever not an episode of the show. And I'm like, oh, good to hear that. Good. Thanks. Appreciate that. I just can't describe what that is. Awesome feeling. It's not that you guys would kill yourself if I stopped if I stopped doing the show, but that you guys were just into the idea of like some dude just thinking out loud for an hour on a lot of days. You know, I always try to mix it up with you guys in the comments. I know I mentioned that the other day, but to me, that's like how it happens. That's like where the real magic is mixing it up with you guys. Because my sister-in-law the other day, they were in town, them and their husband, and they told me, they're like, you are a comment section ass bitch. I haven't stopped thinking about it. I brought it up again earlier today. I was like, why the fuck? I was like, what does that even mean? Doesn't mean it's not true. And I think the reason it bothers me so much is because I know it is true. It's just a crazy thing to say. Comment section ass bitch. It's true. It's true. I want to be in the comments. I really do. Because that's just like where raw human interactions happen. Or rather, it's like brain rot. You want to talk about brain rot. You want to talk about quintessential brain rot, real hashtag sicko hours. Right? Tell me why Tucker Carlson went on Joe Rogan for 3.5 damn hours. What the fuck did they talk about? I gotta know. The truth is I'm about 15 minutes into the episode. I listened to it on like 2 times speed. I mean, they just get right into it, and they're talking about aliens. And I think my not hang up, it's the opposite. I think what drives me, what motivates me to listen to something like that is whatever you think about Rogan. You might fucking hate the guy. Whatever you think about Tucker, most of you, if not all of you listening to this, are like, fuck Tucker Carlson. I agree with you. We're on the same page with that one. No notes. Fuck that guy. He's evil. I've gone back and forth on the whole he's a Russian asset thing. I don't think he is. I actually don't think he is. I just think he's incredibly self-motivated and knows exactly what he's doing. I don't think that necessarily makes him a Russian asset, though. Don't like the guy. But whatever you think about the two of them, in the eyes of American public, a certain sector of it, how large it is, you know, it's larger than you think, view those two guys as crucial intellectual minds. They do. Doesn't matter if you don't agree with that. People do. And so I'm compelled by that. I'm compelled by, like, you put these two guys in the same room for 3 hours. What do they talk about? What do they talk about? Who do they alienate? And what points do they try to convey? What points do they try to get across? I gotta know. That's interesting to me. Because it's conversations that are had by those types of people, you know, recorded in perpetuity, and put onto the internet that shape narratives, that form, rhetoric, like general everyday talking points. It spawns Reddit threads, man. It spawns tweets. It spawns conversation, whatever it is that they talk about. There's going to be some quote that comes out. Did you see what Tucker Carlson said on Rogan? There's going to be something like that, right? And that, to me, is just inherently interesting, even if I don't like them that much. Speaking of, you talk about shit coming out. Well, no pun intended. I thought this wasn't real, and I had to do some really diligent research on this. I'm still a little fuzzy on if this is real or not, but goddamn it, I hope it is. You guys see that Trump can't stop farting in this court case? He just can't stop farting. Journalists in the room are like, hey, there's a smell, and we definitely know where it's coming from. Also, this guy keeps fucking falling asleep. Can't really seem to stay awake. I guess he's just stinking up the courtroom. It's so bad that some guy lit himself on fire outside of the courtroom. Did you guys see that? Did you guys hear about that? That was pretty bizarre. Alrighty, folks. Next time I see you guys, next time you hear from me, I'm going to be a dad, father of one. We're going in. We're going in. Got a big ultrasound tomorrow morning. I think it's like a full, I don't know if it's a full anatomy because they've done that twice now. But we will find out, his weight and stuff. He's going to be a real kid. Like, he's going to be a real dude. It's crazy because if he came out like today, like right now, like he physically looks like a real person. Like he's cooked. Like literally, he's baked. He's been in there long enough. And yeah, I'm excited to do the skin to skin, rip my shirt off. I think I do a whole spiel about this in one of the Evergreen episodes, so I'll let you guys hear me talk about it. I'm almost like sad to get off of this episode. I don't know if you guys can tell I'm kind of stalling a little bit because I just am so like I started this show because I was like I knew I needed an outlet, and the way that it's evolved. Getting to 30 episodes, which I think we played off pretty well as like a haha, this is funny, but I was also being dead ass serious that getting to 30 episodes was a big deal to me. And because that is the number that sort of, makes it an official show in the eyes of show business. And so that was a real achievement for me. And the fact that we're just sort of knocking on the door of 50 episodes without really blinking, honestly, and we're at a point where, dude, I'll sit here for an hour uninterrupted and like I won't flinch. Like it's just fun. Like I just like doing it because I don't show up to these thinking like I got to get this take off and I got to get this take off and I got to get this take off. I know what I want to talk. I know what I want to lead with. And then I just let it roll. I just literally whatever I'm thinking about in that exact moment, that's what we're going to talk about. And the fact that there's an audience for that is very refreshing to me. It's very refreshing to me because that's what I would consume. So it's nice to me to see that there's I don't want to say a market for that, but for lack of better phrasing, that there's like people out there who are like, it's just a very honest form of, I don't want to call it art, but kind of do a little bit, because there's an art form to it. It's hard. It's fucking hard to sit and talk for an hour. That's why I talk about it so much, how proud I am of myself for doing that. Because anybody can do it with two motherfuckers. You can riff, you can bounce off of each other. You could do some snake drafts and shit. You can like do whatever. But when it's just you and all you can really do is look at yourself in the monitor and kind of like very literally have a conversation with yourself. I'm just so thankful that you guys are into that. And I've been consistent on this, that even if there wasn't a market for that, I'd still be doing it. There just wouldn't be anybody listening. That's fine with me. Like, that's cool. I do this for me. I do this because it's really good and therapeutic for me to get some of this shit out. Because in a lot of ways, it's like with how I use this show, there's a lot of like self-reflection and like talking myself through, certain points to figure out where I stand. Because sometimes you got to say something out loud. It's one thing to think something in your head, right? But the second you say it out loud, and sometimes you're like, damn, I haven't said that out loud. I didn't realize how dumb that sounds. Or like, man, now that I say that out loud, like that really is a good point. Like it's just another way for me to kind of figure out where I stand on certain things and like what my convictions are in certain ways. Like if I'm like, no, that joke about Palestinians was like, that was a little too rough. Like that was a little too not nice. That hasn't happened yet. I'm using something, you know, I'm using something arbitrary, or, you know, when I'll use my conservative voice and I'll do whatever. Sometimes I'll be like, that wasn't really that nice. And then you're like, yeah, whatever. Alrighty, folks. I love this community. You guys are great. Coping hour, sickos, real sicko hours. I don't know what you guys are called. Copers? That's not fun. It's not that fun. If you guys want to be copers, you can. Or if you guys want to figure something else out in the YouTube comments, Spotify comments, you can't interact with them. So, alrighty, folks. Next time you hear from me, father of one, love you all very much, genuinely from the bottom of my heart. I'll hear from you, or you'll hear from me in a few weeks. Okay? I mean, I'll be, again, next Wednesday is the next time you'll get an episode. And then the Wednesday after that, too. Okay? Happy NBA playoffs. Everybody behave. I swear to God, if Miami doesn't lose, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Okay? Devin Booker's going to be a Piston. Don't forget I told you that. I'll see you guys in a few weeks. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you can leave 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, nice little comment for the algorithm. Be sure to leave a like. Be sure to subscribe. And I will catch you guys
Now have
in the next one.
Beautiful, beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful.